Hello, my name is Kylie Cooper, and this is my presentation on the social issue of toxic masculinity. I've put some pictures around that talk about some of the toxic masculinity things. You can be masculine without being toxic. Real men don't cry. Toxic masculinity ruins the party, and end toxic masculinity and rape culture. Now we need to answer the question of what is toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is defined as a set of attitude and ways of behaving stereotypically associated with and expected of men, regarding as having a negative impact on men and on society as a whole. So in my presentation, you can see I have a man that's at a rally that has up a sign that says men of quality do not fear equality. I have a picture of some prominent men in the media who combat toxic masculinity by portraying themselves as wearing things that are normally deemed by society as more feminine. You see a man wearing a fluffy shirt and the Timothy Chalamet on the side, his outfit is got jewels on it. And then I have a picture of a man with what is considered to be masculine, believing men are better than females, and things that are typically taught by society at a young age that men grow up with the ideas of that create toxic masculinity. So why is toxic masculinity a problem in our society? In a study conducted by Mike C. Parent, Teresa D. Gobble, and Aaron Rochland in their article Social Media Behavior, Toxic Masculinity, and Depression, they found a positive correlation between toxic masculinity and depression, and found that people who were more active on social media generally experienced more toxic masculinity, and that the social media toxic masculinity sometimes would be more damaging than in-person toxic masculinity, because they would be exposed to it and look to find it and be able to look back at it, and it would leave them with negative thoughts that impacted them throughout the day. And in Roger Mike Kirby's The Perils of Toxic Masculinity 4 case studies, they looked at 4 men with different health problems and asked them about how through their life they had experienced toxic masculinity and in the way it had affected them and their health, to see if there was any correlation, and found that the men who had experienced toxic masculinity did worse because they were forced into standards that they felt that society put them in, and therefore experienced worse health, and both physical and mental health. And in Andrea Whaling's Problemizing Toxic and Healthy Masculinity to Address Gender Inequality, she found that people would use toxic masculinity to almost as like an excuse, as an scapegoat, to explain why they behave the way they would, as in the boys will be boys that's on this slide. They found that when men would sexually assault women, they would blame it on that they were taught that way, or that's the way that men are supposed to behave, and were taught that it was okay to be like that. Finally, what can we do to solve toxic masculinity? We have to keep an open mind and be accepting. Here we see some trends that are happening in social media and on television that are portraying men in more feminine ways, that even whether people agree or disagree with the way that they're dressed, it becomes more accepted because it becomes a more normalized image in our society. We have Harry Styles in a dress on the cover of Vogue. This was a trend on TikTok where a lot of men were wearing maid dresses, some of them straight, some of them not. And then this is Cody Fern from American Horror Story, who's portraying a really masculine figure, the spawn of Satan who takes over the world, has a lot of power, but yet he's wearing makeup and he has long hair like a girl, and he's dressed somewhat feminine to play on the idea of masculinity and femininity and the way that people can express themselves the way that they want, and society will learn to accept them because they become more normalized. And so eventually kids grow up and new generations are normalized with the idea, and it's not so foreign and something that people can be accepting of. Thank you for listening to my presentation.